Welcome back to the Ne Josh One podcast. My name is Isaac Kamens. Today we are talking more about Wang Jing. In this one, we look at a couple of accounts of Wang Jing's challenge matches, mostly in Japan. This focuses around Robert W. Smith's early writings about Wang, as well as one from a guy who challenged Wang and one from a guy who became Wang's student. And then in the Patreon, we talk a little bit more from Robert Smith's perspective about Wang from a very early article, maybe even the first article he wrote about internal martial arts from the late 50s, I believe. So check that out. Hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves and be well.
This season, we've been exploring the Chinese martial arts of Taiwan and lately Master Wang Jing. And so we've sort of been tracing his story. And now we come to one of the parts of the story that's sort of what made him so famous. And one of those factors was his ability to take pretty much any punch anybody could dish out. One of the first times that's mentioned is in the book Chinese Boxing by Robert W. Smith, where he describes the experience of punching Master Wang. Here, I wanted to start by looking at an article from Taiwan Wu Lin, published in 2004. Here, one of the students of Wang Jing is describing what happened in that event from another perspective. So it says, World Heavyweight Boxing Champion Robert Smith was introduced by a friend. Please let him have a martial lesson with Mr. Wang Jing. And then it says, sure, sir, let him hit 3 times on any part of my body. As a result, Smith's palms became red and swollen, and he kept shouting, the hand hurts, but the gentleman is unharmed, which is slightly inaccurate in that Smith was not a world heavyweight boxing champion.
No.
He was a Gold Gloves coach, but I'm not, he never had a professional bout that I've known. So that's the only Chinese version that we've been able to find. But there's the earliest version that Mr. Smith published is from Strength and Health magazine, 1963, which is a classic muscle magazine.
Yeah. Guy flexing on the cover.
Yeah.
Like sort of classic 1950s.
This is pre, what do you call them?
Steroids.
Steroids. Yeah, pre-steroids. So there's old muscle men in here and some beauty queens here and there. Old and judo books for sale. Bruce Tanger's Method of Self-Defense. So like this is the original old school. This is before karate even really got well known.
I mean, it probably took him, 10 years to compile all of that stuff.
Think about it, right? Yeah. He took his time
to meet all those teachers and research different people.
Because in the 70s, he's writing about things he experienced in the late 50s. So it took a while to make it over. And maybe for there to be an audience without Bruce Lee, nobody would have purchased the book, right?
I mean, that's why that first cover of the Chinese Boxing basically has
a Bruce Lee
silhouette that's awfully similar to Bruce Lee.
Right. So, Mr. Smith comes up a lot because he's the first guy who really opened up that door to internal martial arts. He brought Cheng Man-ching to America, kind of helped make that happen. He just opened up people's eyes to this whole other side of Chinese martial arts that didn't have anything to do with Bruce Lee, but there was a kung fu craze at the time. So this book really got around and inspired a lot of people like Kumar and others to go to the East to learn and come back with that knowledge. So Master Wang was one of the guys he really put out there.
But it's interesting because Wang isn't like a prominent, he's sort of in the back of the book. He's not one of the
he doesn't get a whole chapter. Hung Yishang's in the front. Yeah, that's interesting. So let's see. He says Master Wang is 58 years old, 230-pound Wang Jing, punches with devastating ability, and is impervious to kicks to the abdomen, which he also uses offensively. And so that's his introduction. So Master Wang's a little bit younger at this time. Yeah.
Still,
so before BKF gets there.
Yeah, but 58's not that's not a young man. That's
true.
That's almost 60.
True.
He's up there already.
And Hung Yishang is 45 at this time.
I mean, imagine what he was like when he was 30.
Right.
It's just
Right. So that, and presumably, uh, he in his 30s or no, in his 40s when Robert Smith actually met him, but he's writing
Okay.
about him at age 58. So he says, um, Wang weighed in at 230 pounds, looked like a Buddha, and had the hands so fast that Willie Pep would be envious. Although big himself, Wang frowned on the hardness of Shaolin external system. Brick breaking and tile shattering would never prove anything, he stated, until bricks and tiles began to think and move like humans. So we've covered that a little bit in the past, but he was a very pragmatic type of guy for sure.
That was, I think, one of his favorite quotes.
So Mr. Smith says that the internal martial arts have, include deep breathing and a drastically different approach to fighting than does Shaolin. Many of the internal martial arts advocates who can withstand with impunity a foot or a fist to the midriff. Wang not only has the skill, but he can actually use his vast abdomen against one's fist on impact so as to produce a broken wrist. Throughout Asia, he has been tested, and no one comes close to hurting him. Many leading Japanese karate masters have smiled ruefully after achieving no effect on his punch. So once again, that's this untouchable
Just
ability to take the punches.
also the subtle burn at the end is kind of funny.
Yeah. And as you said at first, the kicks too. He kicks anywhere into his lower body. Like he
Yeah.
says, beyond this, Wong could also take any kick to the lower torso. I kicked him until I strained an ankle, and he laughed. How do you do it? I asked. His answer, chi. To go further, even this doesn't connote anything but defensive ability. Although these skills coupled in one man left only two areas, the head and the groin, both very mobile and difficult to hit to an attacker, the reader might properly ask, but could he fight? He could, and did. He has spent much of the past 2 years in Japan and has fought with several high-ranking karate men. No one has even come close to defeating this man of 58 years. In the process, he has come by a supreme dedication. In the process, he has come by a supreme depreciation of karate. He feels that the original forms derived from China have been distorted, and that the nonsensical high kicks and rigorous body hardening avail nothing when confronted with true technique. So
Mhm.
there you have it. Wang Shujin was hard to beat. Um, oh yeah, and he goes on to say he uses the Xingyi fist with a corkscrew effect from 1 inch out to get more effect than most men get with a full stance strike. John Blooming, the amateur judo champ and Masoyama's prize foreign karate player, even though he has hurt his wrist on Wong's stomach, disparaged him to me once when I was visiting Tokyo. Yeah, so what? What else can he do? Asked John. I took John to Wong and asked him to be shown the corkscrew, but to keep it gentle. Wong put his relaxed fingers on John Blooming's stomach, curled them into a fist, and screwed. Blooming bent over in agony and has since been a believer.
Mm. Well,
So
and if you,
there you go.
yeah, and if you know who John Blooming is,
Right?
that's like no joke.
He's a huge, tough, incredibly strong judo
Guy,
karate man
and I
who could
mean,
take, he could take a blow himself.
yeah.
So an interesting part at the end of the article, he says, his bagua palm was like iron. An unlovely trick he likes to do is lure you close and then pull you directly into himself while he bumps you with his gut. Just before I left Taiwan, Wang came to me and said that he was returning to Japan for a year, but following that, he would like to come to America. I imagine the Chinese communities will try to get to him, but if any martial arts organization would like to beat them to it, please contact the writer.
Mm.
So, anyways, I guess he never did make it to USA.
Nope.
So I always like to bring out this article because this is the first appearance of this in-depth review of Chinese internal martial arts in the West that I've come across yet,
Yeah.
with such detail and flair for
And the story doesn't change much. I mean, that's
uh-uh. Now, another of the stories of people punching Wang Shujin comes from the Aikido world because, he went to Japan so much and he had
yeah,
those confrontations with karate guys, but, the Aikido bros want in on it too.
right.
Um, So the website Aikido Sangenkai, he's a guy who posts a lot of great articles online that, he talks a lot about the relationship between Aikido and politics and also, oh, sensei, did he learn other stuff besides Daito Ru, and he digs deep in the lineage and stuff. But he posted some of the interviews about Wang Shujing on here. So he says Wang Shujin had some points of interaction with the Aikido community through American student Terry Dobson, who trained with him in Japan.
Hmm.
Here are two versions of his meeting with Kazu Chiba. The Chiba was a student of O Sensei who came and taught in the United States. I think his school is in San Diego. The first is from Chiba himself, and the second from Terry Dobson via Ellis Amdur. So here's Chiba's version. As we were talking about challenges, would you mind telling me about your confrontation with Mr. Wang, the Tai Chi master from China? Who told you about this? Perhaps I better not tell. Chiba Sensei, laughter.
Uh-oh.
Okay, then. He's laughing it off. I was in a big demonstration of martial arts in Tokyo in the early 1960s, and Taiji Chuan was being shown by Mr. Wang. He was from Taiwan, and he was very big indeed. He had become quite famous later in Japan. Well, at the end of his display, he had a number of karateka lined up in front of him, and each of them punched him in the belly. It had no effect on him. But I was not impressed. I would have done something else. Sensei demonstrated a groin kick and face punch while saying this. So anyway, two of my private students were also studying Tai Chi under Mr. Wang, and they were very impressed with him. They invited me to come along and see him. Eventually, I accepted and went to watch his class. At the dojo, my student introduced us, and he politely asked me to show some Aikido. Even though his words were warm, it was still a challenge. Well, we faced each other, and Master Wang made something like sumo posture with his hands outstretched. I stood and waited for an opening. This went on for some minutes until he moved forward to push me. So I met him, did a body evasion, and took his wrist with the kotagaishi technique. And that's a wrist twisting technique. The one eyes where you
Okay.
twist their wrist inward, basically.
Yeah.
His wrist made a loud snapping noise as I applied it. Even though I applied kotagaishi strongly and injured him, he did not go down. Master Wang snatched his wrist away from me and challenged me immediately. So this time he pushed me with both hands in the belly and threw me quite a distance across the room. I landed, but I also did not go down. It was an amazing throw. My students then came between us, and that was that.
Oh, got broken up.
So, I mean, that's got a few interesting things in there. It seems like he has a good humor about it, but he
He
wasn't
gives
taking no
Wong his
shit either.
props, he's like,
Yeah, he gives him his props.
like he gave it as good as he got it, or whatever.
And that idea of the sumo posture where you come out with your hands up like that reminds me of sort of the Ichuan
Right,
arms,
right.
it's sort of loose arms held in front of you, not really a boxing guard, but they could become a boxing guard. Your hands are up at sort of face level with the elbows down.
Yeah.
So that sounds like the typical Ichuan posture. Now, the thing about Kotagaishi, the Aikido technique, it takes pretty much two of your hands on one of your opponent's hands to do it.
Mm.
If you're really trying to throw somebody with it,
Right.
So in a way, it's hard to pull off. Like you basically, as far as I'm concerned, to make it work, you have to punch the guy in the face, then put two hands on. And so in
Makes sense.
Aikido, it's a cooperative throw. You can only do it if you happen to stumble. In sparring, it'd be really hard to pull off. Other Aikido techniques are easier,
Well, or
but
just if the person's not expecting it. I mean,
yeah, like wrist locks like that, they're really hard to put on. You need two hands to do them, and the other guy has a free hand. So if he sees it coming, he can just clobber you. So for that reason, Kotagaishi is hard to pull off, but it sounds like Wong got caught by surprise there. And if someone puts that on, they can crack. Like you better take a jumping high fall to get out of that. Otherwise, you could fuck up your wrist and elbow bad. So, anyways, but I just wanted to finish by saying, so then Wong used the double-handed push to send him launching him. So what do you think that is?
Right.
That's a Tai Chi
Yeah, probably just like a straight on kind of push.
on. So using on with both hands, double push with a heavyweight guy like Master
I
Wong,
mean,
you're gonna
who
go
knows? He might have been
flying.
doing some, Shingy Tiger or something, but basically
Mm.
that's sort of
Shingy Tiger or double push.
step
It's
forward,
pretty much the
double.
same move.
Yeah, basically.
Tai Chi, you'd shift forward. Xingyi, you'd step forward.
Yeah,
So
and if you're
wouldn't
really
be
gonna,
surprised if Wang Shujin took a step,
yeah, I was
sent
gonna
this
say,
motherfucker
well, if you're
flying.
really gonna toss somebody, yeah, you usually take a step with it either way. So,
You're gonna send this guy bouncing.
um,
So the second story. Okay, so here's the version of the Terry Dobson, the Aikido man, who also studied with Wang told. So as told by another guy, Alessander. I will quote the story that Terry Dobson told me, which was corroborated at another time by Don Draeger.
All right.
Um, Wang started teaching in the grounds of Meiji Shrine, and somewhere along the line, a group of non-Japanese around Don Draeger started stowing up to train with him.
So that's who the American students were apparent then, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, so Don Draeger, as we mentioned before, was an early pioneer in karate
It's probably like
and
it was probably Don and John Blooming,
right, those type of guys started coming around.
which would
And
make
Don
sense because
Draeger was good buddies with Robert Smith, so they
right,
must have
and they
made the
were more
connection.
judo dudes, so maybe
Yeah,
that
big
there's
time.
some kind of like oh these American judo
Highly accomplished
guys,
judo guys. Yeah, these guys trained in Japan and kicked
so they got a
major
beef
ass.
with them.
So Draeger learned some Bagua. Wang would show some Xingyi, but mostly he taught Taiji Chuan. Among this group was Terry Dobson, who was a live-in student of Morihei Ueshiba of Aikido. Terry's direct senior was Chiba.
Mm,
Wang was doing demos in Japanese martial arts demonstrations. And here you'd have all these starched Japanese in their crisp gi and their crisp, snappy movements. And out would come this fat Chinaman in gray flannel slacks and suspenders. And he'd start doing impossibly slow Tai Chi. And he'd turn around, and then his ass, as big as the moon, would waft across the stage. And then he'd challenge all comers to come have a go at him. And the young karate boys would be rabid. And he'd let them punch his stomach or kick him in the groin, and he'd just laugh it off. But heaven help you if you tried to punch his head. He made it clear that that was out of bounds, and if you broke the rules, then he'd become, shall we say, active. So there you go. The young karate guys were just like looking at Tai Chi, going, "Let me get my hands on this
right.
guy."
Well, and this that was the same group of Bruce and Marnix and all those guys were part of that,
They were the young karate guys,
right. They
right?
were
They
the
were
ones
like, "Fuck,
watching, going, yeah,
what
let
the
me get a
fuck
hit
is
of
this
that.
shit?" Yeah, like this couldn't be real, but this big fat dude was just clobbering him. So
Yeah, I
Terry
mean,
stated, as best that I can remember, the Uechi Deshi at the Hanbu, the Uechi Deshi are the live-in students, the
mhm.
loyalists of the
Right, right,
student.
right.
Uechi Deshi at Hanbu, particularly Chiba, started giving me a raft of shit that I was being disloyal to O-sensei by studying with Wang. And I asked O-sensei, and he said, sure, do what you want. But the Uechi Deshi wouldn't let up. So I said, why don't you come and check him out for yourself? So Drager and me took Chiba, Saotome, and Tamura. Well, we walked in, and Wang scopes out Chiba right away. Like, he knows this, who has the attitude here.
Right.
He takes one look and says, come here, boy. Seriously, Wang's over 60, paid lots of dues. He's a religious leader and all, and here comes these punks, as far as he's concerned, in their 20s, copying an attitude. So Wang lets Chiba punch him in the stomach. Nothing. Chiba tries again. Nothing. Well, now Chiba loses his temper. He half turns away, and then he tries to sucker punch him, thinking it's timing. This time, Wang sucks in his fist into his belly and then drops, gives it back. Shiba's arm goes shooting back behind his ear, and he's shaking his wrist in pain. Wang then lets Chiba kick him in the groin. Nothing. So Chiba loses it, grabs Wang's wrist, and puts a Nikyo or Kodagaishi on it, some kind of wrist lock. I don't know what Wang did. It was fast. But Chiba slams on the floor, and Wang's doing something to him with one hand, and he's screaming in pain. Finally, Wang lets him up. You've got a little chi. Why don't you come back when you acquire more? Then he turns to Tamura and Saotome, who were standing there with their backs against the wall, and says, you want to try?
Well,
They both
shit.
shook their heads, and we all went home. They never
There.
gave me shit about Wang again. Far as I'm concerned, Chiba lost his chance at salvation right there. He should have quit everything and sat at Wang's feet.
Oh shit.
Damn.
It's a very different account of the story.
You know, Chiba slows it down to I put a wrist lock and then he pushed
Right.
me.
He
But
just
in
hits
this case,
this is the
it
filling in
sort of
there.
might have happened a little faster than that.
Right.
But yeah, I love a couple of things in here, like, these youngsters who are, those are the guys who are the old guys now,
Right. Right.
Satome, we published some of his books at North Atlantic. He's a fantastic Aikido practitioner. I've never learned from him, but his books are just absolutely amazing. But he's some more of a nice type guy, whereas Chiba was known to be the rough and tumble guy who was,
I mean, clearly.
liked putting the applications on. He took on Wang Shujin. I
Right.
mean,
Long
shit.
clocked it right away. Like,
He's all, that's the guy. Yeah, he spotted that young punk. He's like, come on,
let's
get your
go.
ass over here. That's classic.
It takes one to
Got
know one, kind of, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, Wang Shujin's over there raising hell too.
Yeah.
But
That's a
that's
good story.
classic. And then
That's
you've got a
good.
little chi. And Wang is known in all this stuff. Like chi was his thing. Like,
Well, that's a big thing in Aikido too, right?
I
We
mean, it
talked
is
about
a huge thing, but Aikido is taught through technique.
right, right,
So
right.
there's a lot of technical material involved. But you're right that the obsession with chi is equal on both sides. But Wang was more like, we keep running across things where building your chi was more important than any possible technique. Like,
Right.
no technique's going to work without that. So I like how again, he comes back to that every time. Like, I don't care what techniques you have, chi is all that really
I mean,
matters.
it does help, you know.
Whereas a lot of other teachers, yeah, chi could be important, but the first thing is to learn how to defend yourself or learn how to move
Well, and it's
first.
also how are you defining chi? I mean, there's a whole thing in there, like,
Right? It could.
because, Wong's version of it, I think, encompassed a lot of physical power. What he's not just
True.
talking about like feeling energy moving through your
No,
body. He's talking about,
robust, raging
yeah,
energy. Yeah.
he's talking about a lot of energy being slammed into another
Right.
human
Like
being.
radiating heat. He's not talking about, oh, I feel my chi. He's
Yeah,
like, you're feeling my chi. But, we keep coming back to Master Hong Yishang would always say, chi is not, deal with chi later. We need to work on intention, awareness, stuff
right.
like that. Whereas Master Wong would just be like, chi, chi, chi all the time.
Right. There's technique to get in, you do the exercise to get strong, or you do the strength and then you learn the technique. Wong was about doing that thing of, you got one technique you do well, and that's what you use, right? You don't learn 1,000 techniques. You just like get good at like five different things where you can just flatten somebody, and
Yeah.
since Sizzler interview where we talked to Bruce about his different teachers.
Yeah.
I mean, my impression of what happened there is probably somewhere in the middle. Wong probably thought it was going to be a more friendly exchange. The other guy was like, "Fuck this old man, I'm gonna fuck him up," because I got
Yeah.
the chance, and he took his
He went
chance,
for
and
it. Yeah.
he got his one lick in there, but immediately got thrown on the ground because of it.
Yeah. He
Away
took his
from him.
shot. Finish our discussion of the Japanese impression of Master Wong. So there's a little more extended interview with one of the Aikido masters, Hidemine Jibiki, who ended up becoming a student of Master Wong and sort of went in that direction and continued to teach Chinese martial arts in Japan. So there's an interview with him here on Aikido Sengenkai that I thought would help shed some more light on Wang Shujin in Japan. It's pretty interesting. So Jibiki was doing nothing but Aikido Shugyo day and night. But he became aware through the newspapers that a giant of Chinese Kenpo was coming to Japan. This was his chance to make the acquaintance of Wang Shujin Roshi. So I love how they use Japanese
Right,
terminology.
right, right.
Aikido Shugyo is like training your ass off really hard and the spiritual, not just the technique, but all the inner training as well. So like he's deep into it. I think he's a student of Osensei. Yeah, I think so.
Mm.
But yeah, I said it was at a used bookshop in my mid 20s. I was employed by an American military base as a translator, so I went for looking for books in English that would be useful. I saw a picture in Life magazine of unusual martial arts that had been published in America during the war. Someone in the Allied occupation force must have left it behind. Now I think that I should have bought it because that picture made a great impression on me. I had started in Aikido at the time. Then I did Aikido Daito-Ru Aikido when I was around 27. My body was flexible and I was filled with the confidence there was nothing that I couldn't do. The pictures in the magazine were probably Taiji Chuan, and as someone who practiced karate previously, I couldn't grasp the point of what they were doing in the Taiji forms. I couldn't even imagine
What is
how
this shit?
a single whip would be used. When I first saw it, I thought it looked strange and mysterious, and it was that impression that led me to meet Roshi, and then all the way to the present day. When I was just past 30 years old, I saw a newspaper article about Wang Shijin Roshi. Through a series of articles, I learned that a giant of Chinese Kempo had accepted an invitation to come to Japan. I remembered that Life magazine picture that had left such a powerful impression on me, so I thought I would certainly want to go meet him. Um, since Master Wang was a Budoka specially dispatched by the government of the Republic of China, and he was a foreigner, I was worried about the language barrier. I was too timid to go by myself. At the time, I would go drinking with my friends after Aiki training, and things would naturally flower into discussions of martial arts. So I proposed that we all go to see him. One of my friends who had done karate and had seen the photos of Chinese Kempo uh, accepted and said, well, if you want to go that badly, we'll go along with you. You can try him if you want to. They were mainly interested in arts that employed the sword or the staff, so it may be that none of them were as interested in the empty hand martial arts as I was. So, anyways, there's some pictures that include a very young Don Drager and a couple other foreigners. So you can tell this
Cool.
is all, these guys are all sort of the open-minded Japanese martial arts guys at the time. And it reminds me how later even Sudong Chen goes to Japan to,
Yeah.
there's a real interest in Chinese martial arts in Japan during the 60s and 70s. You can tell.
Well, I think if you were serious about learning martial arts back then and you had the means, because that was a big part of it. Because it
Definitely.
wasn't like now where you could stay where you are and learn a bunch of martial arts. If you
Mm.
wanted to learn a martial art, you
You had to
basically
work,
you had to go to that country. You know,
right?
like, if you wanted to learn, Filipino stick fighting, you had to go to the Philippines, It's
Right.
like
This
um
was so he finally finds his way to meeting Master Wang. And what was your impression of Wang Roshi? He was quite different from what I imagined. Laughter. Since he was a Kempo-ka, I envisioned him as lean and fearless, like a karate fighter or a boxer. But when he
everybody
came
talks shit
out,
about his weight.
Roshi was like a plump Hote-sama, and they've got a picture of Hote, which is the sort of fat Japanese god of good luck and abundance.
Right,
He's a
right, right.
cheerful, bald, fat guy who actually looks amazingly like Wang Shujing.
Of course.
Um, Squinty eyes, big bald head, fat, he looks
Yeah.
exactly like him. It was very unexpected. However, I could not even begin to imagine what came next. I cannot even begin to describe it in words. In any case, I told him that I had traveled 4 hours from Kizurazu to meet him and feverishly begged him to take me as a student. At the time, facilities for travel were quite bad, and it would take a very long time to travel to Tokyo. He told me to come at 6:30 in the morning to train at Meiji Jingu. Another Mr. Kinbei Sato also went to the morning practices, but it was impossible to make it to the morning practices from where I lived. Sunday mornings, I was working at a different dojo. So when I asked him if it would be possible to train after that, he made a special exception so that I could train at the Toyama dojo. What kind of training did you do with Monk Shujing? Roshi's training would start with a lot of Chanron. Chanron is a method of pole standing. In Mandarin, it is pronounced Zhangzhuang, but Wang Shujin Roshi, who was born in Tianjin, pronounced it as Chanron. Roshi said that there was no meaning in teaching the kata of Tai Chi or Xing Yi to those who had not built a firm base of Gong Fu. Chanron was stressed from the beginning levels for the cultivation of Gong Fu. So there you go. Once
Yeah.
again, yet another witness to the obsession with standing.
Right. I mean, it's the
Chi first, technique second.
right. Definitely the theme with Wang Jing is, yeah, you learn how to stand and then you get something else.
Right.
But like you do that training first.
So since he called it Kenpo, which is the Japanese word for Gong Fu, we
Right.
had imagined the practice as being something like if they strike like this, then one responds like that. So all the other guys were really disappointed. For myself, while I thought of it as basic training in Kempo, I really had no idea what was going on. I just followed Roshi, doing Chanron in a daze. So
Just spacing out while he's
it's like,
standing there.
what the fuck are we doing? I don't even know, but I'm doing it. I mean, which if you're first starting standing and you're coming from a martial arts background, it's got to be
I mean,
bizarre as hell.
that's everybody's experience with
You're like,
standing
why
the
am I
first.
standing here? This is so boring
Well, it
and
oscillates
tiring.
between that and oh my God, when do I get to stop?
Right? My arms are
Like
dying. When is this going to
it's
be
like, oh, this
over?
sucks.
As the minutes just tick slower and slower.
Yeah.
And so all his other buddies are like, oh man, we're not even getting to do any techniques. This sucks.
Right. It's funny.
Um, so let's see. So how did your training with Wang Shujing Roshi progress? Even when Wang Shujin Roshi came to stay in Japan, he would go home after 1 or 2 months. I think that may have been related to his visa or something. After that, we'd never know when he was coming back. So one of the reasons we went to Shimizu Sensei's place was that if we went there, we'd be able to learn from him what Roshi's schedule was looking like. However, we were really fortunate that Roshi would teach us a lot of things in a short time since he couldn't make a long-term stay. We did Taiji Chuan, and he also taught us Xingyi Chuan. At the time, however, we did not really understand the real meaning of those things, or just how incredible the content of the training really was. I had already done karate, so it was easy for me to see things like for me to do things like the kata and Xingyi. But one cannot understand striking with chi just from kata. It might be said that I had some relative understanding of ki from doing aiki, but I think that my ki itself had not yet been developed because it takes a really long time to develop one's ki. Because of my habits from karate, at the time I was doing Xingyi Chuan with all of my strength. So yeah, that's interesting in that he would teach them more because he knew that he wasn't coming back for it. So it's sort of seminar style. He'd give them a bunch to
Right.
work on while he was gone.
The shotgun blast approach.
Yeah, so you had a bunch of stuff to work on in the meantime until he probably wasn't sure when he'd be coming back.
I
So
mean,
you had to
he was kind of one of the first guys that did that. I mean, the sort of, at least in, this century,
yeah,
that
yeah, it
like,
wasn't openly taught that much, especially to
well,
foreigners.
I mean, also, the technology didn't exist to just travel at ease, right? So like,
Right. You couldn't get on a plane back in the day.
right now you could get on a plane and fly somewhere and be there in a day or two and teach, right? And that was a new thing, that was
Yeah.
like, and then go home, right? Not just have to move there,
Right.
like,
Right, right. And it's faster than a boat. You
right,
could get
much. I mean, it
make a
wouldn't
lot.
take you weeks to do it. It would take you days, right? So,
Yeah.
that was a big difference. And we talked about how Wang Shujing was on this sort of goodwill mission. So I
Yeah.
think that was part of it too. That
I like also again that keep coming back to it. Key. The key is more important than any of the kata. You got to
right,
keep
well,
developing, and it takes a while. It's got to grow within you. It's not. You can't memorize key. It has to be something that grows organically over time and through beatings from your teacher. So
just
we'll finish the interview here. He's got a few more statements that are pretty cool. So he says, during that period of time, I was entranced by the astounding techniques of Daito-ryu Aikibudo, which is what O-sensei used to call Aikido.
right.
A time when I would forget to eat while I was conducting my research. Rain or shine, I couldn't get Aiki out of my head. Although I could begin to understand how incredible the techniques of Wang Shujin Roshi were, I was not able to fully comprehend the techniques themselves. But I could understand Chanron, and that was the platform upon which Roshi's Bugi was built. I couldn't understand the techniques, but I know if I just stand here long enough and just do the standing, I'm gonna get there.
I mean, that's
It's not
basically
wrong.
what all of his other students said, was, shut up and stand, like,
Exactly.
yeah.
So, what was so incredible about Wang Shujin Roshi's techniques? Roshi was aware that I had been training in Aiki, so he told me to try and applying something. However, when I reversed his joints, he'd just spin and slip right out. Then he'd send me flying with a single light tap. Just to see such a thing with my own eyes was incredible. I thought that here was a person who had really built a firm foundation for their Budo. I learned just how important that foundation is from Roshi. All right, we'll wrap up our discussion of Wang Shujin in this next episode.
Right. Stay tuned.
Talk
All
to you
right,
then.
man. Hey, folks, thanks for listening. If you want to hear the Patreon episode, you can head over, join for $5 a month, gets you the premium membership. All right, thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves and be well.